What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live in a living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Smarter? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, DJLittleRock.com. Let me say that one more time. DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote. And maybe you can have me on the ones and twos, the digital wheels of steel at your next event. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Use the hashtag What Makes You Famous and find it everywhere. Time for a little What Makes You Smarter. Learn with me right here on the program.
Now, on with the show. Today on the program, 10 things you need to know today for Sunday, March 29th, 2020. 10 things you need to know today. Number 1, Trump decides not to order quarantine for New York region. President Trump on Saturday backed down from ordering a quarantine of the New York region, including New Jersey and Connecticut, to prevent residents from leaving during the novel coronavirus pandemic. Trump eventually came to the conclusion a quarantine, quote, would not be necessary, end quote, instead asking the Center for Disease Control and Prevention to issue a travel advisory. The CDC urged residents in the tri-state area to halt non-essential travel for the next 14 days, with exceptions for employees in critical industries like healthcare. New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, Democrat, previously called the idea of an enforceable quarantine, quote, preposterous, end quote. New York City remains the epicenter of the United States coronavirus outbreak. This is according to the Washington Post and the CDC. Number 2, Italy's coronavirus death toll surpasses 10,000. Italy, the epicenter of the novel coronavirus pandemic in Europe, saw the number of deaths resulting from COVID-19 cross the 10,000 threshold Saturday, as the number of confirmed cases passed 90,000. Italy announced 889 deaths over the previous 24-hour period, a fall from Friday, which saw a record 969 new fatalities. The number of new cases remained level, as the country hopes it has already hit its daily peak in that regard, and recoveries continued on an upward trend. Spain, meanwhile, reported 838 new deaths over a 24-hour period Saturday, its highest toll since the outbreak began, bringing the number of COVID-19 related fatalities in the country to 6,258. This is according to Deutsche Welle and The Guardian. Number 3, coronavirus ICU patients in California double. California Governor Gavin Newsom, Democrat, said Saturday that the number of novel coronavirus patients in the state's intensive care unit beds more than doubled overnight from 200 on Friday to 410 on Saturday. The COVID-19 hospitalization rate rose by 38.6%. Newsom said it's, quote, devastating, end quote, for the patients and their families, but acknowledged California is, quote, blessed, end quote, that the numbers still seem, quote, relatively modest, end quote, compared to other parts of the country. Overall, California has more than 5,500 confirmed cases and more than 115 deaths attributed to COVID-19. There are some reports of inadequate testing. However, California reportedly has 7,200 ICU beds across 365 hospitals statewide, many of them in the Los Angeles area. This is according to the Los Angeles Times and the Mercury News. Number 4, tornado damages mostly empty mall, injures 6 in Arkansas. A strong tornado struck northeastern Arkansas on Saturday amid a severe weather outbreak across much of the Midwest. Search and rescue operations were reportedly underway at a mall in Jonesboro, Arkansas, where vehicles were reportedly overturned. Most stores at the mall were closed, however, because of the novel coronavirus pandemic. Jonesboro E911 Director Jeff Presley said under normal circumstances, the mall would have been packed at the time the tornado struck. 6 people reportedly suffered minor injuries as a result of the tornado and were taken to a local hospital. The storm system also caused flash flooding in the Cleveland, Ohio metro area Sunday morning, prompting water and rescue operations and closing a section of highway. This is according to Fox News and the Weather Channel. Number 5. North Korea launches another weapons test. North Korea once again launched projectiles suspected to be short-range ballistic missiles into the Sea of Japan on Sunday, South Korean military officials said. It was North Korea's 4th weapons test this month. The recent launches have rankled South Korea even more than usual since they've taken place during a global health crisis caused by the novel COVID-19 coronavirus. South Korea called the actions, quote, deeply inappropriate, end quote, urging Pyongyang to cease similar operations going forward. Seoul tried issuing a similar warning last week as well, but the message apparently didn't register. The United States says it's aware of the test. President Trump last week reportedly sent North Korean leader Kim Jong-un a letter offering to cooperate in the fight against the coronavirus. This is according to the New York Times and NBC News. Number 6. Trump, Biden, neck and neck in new poll. A new Washington Post ABC News poll shows President Trump and former President Joe Biden, the favorite to win the Democratic nomination, in a close race months ahead of November's general election. Trump had previously trailed Biden by 7 percentage points, but the latest survey, which comes amid the novel coronavirus pandemic, moves him into a near tie. Trump outpaces Biden when it comes to whom voters think is better equipped to handle the pandemic, but the margin of error makes the difference statistically insignificant. Biden, though, is more trusted to deal with healthcare issues overall, while Trump got higher marks for his ability to manage the economy. This is according to the Washington Post. Number 7. Former GOP Senator Tom Coburn dies at 72. Former Oklahoma Senator Tom Coburn, Republican, died Saturday at his home in Tulsa after a long battle with prostate cancer. He was 72. Coburn had battled health issues for many years, and his bout with cancer led him to retire from the Senate in 2015, 2 years before his second term was up. An obstetrician by training, Coburn, who served in the House before winning a seat in the upper chamber, was known for his fierce commitment to conservatism, both fiscally and socially. He was opposed to the expansion of the federal government, abortion rights, and same-sex marriage, and did not believe in global warming science. Still, he was known for bipartisanship on oversight issues and received praise from Democrats for his response to the 2008 financial crisis and his investigations into corruption, tax avoidance, and fraudulent Social Security claims. This is according to the Washington Post and The Week. Number 8. Saudi Arabia intercepts missile over Riyadh. Saudi Arabia's air defenses intercepted 2 ballistic missiles above the kingdom's capital, Riyadh, and the city of Jizan in the south. A spokesman for the Saudi-led coalition fighting in the neighboring Yemen said. Residents in Riyadh said they could hear the missile being destroyed. No group has claimed responsibility for the attempted attacks, but Saudi state media accused the Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. The Houthis have previously launched several attacks against Saudi Arabia, with whom they've been battling in Yemen since 2015, though most of those previous attempts targeted bases and towns across the border. The United Nations has called for a ceasefire in Yemen to further protect citizens from the novel coronavirus pandemic. This is according to Al Jazeera and the Financial Times. Number 9. Knicks Rangers owner Dolan tests positive for coronavirus. James Dolan, the owner of the New York Knicks and the New York Rangers, has tested positive for the novel COVID-19 coronavirus, the Knicks said in a statement Saturday night. The 64-year-old Dolan is reportedly experiencing, quote, little to no symptoms, end quote, and is in isolation while continuing to oversee business operations for the Madison Square Garden Company, of which he is the executive chairman. Both the NHL and NBA seasons have been postponed due to the coronavirus pandemic. The Rangers were in the midst of a surprising 37-28-5 record at the time of the suspension, while the Knicks were 21-45. New York has become the epicenter of the coronavirus outbreak in the United States. This is according to ESPN and the New York Knicks. Number 10, Hanks Wilson returned to U.S. after coronavirus quarantine in Australia. Tom Hanks and Rita Wilson have returned to the United States. The married couple had been quarantined in Australia after they both tested positive for the novel COVID-19 coronavirus earlier this month. Hanks had been doing pre-production for work in a movie in Australia. Both Wilson and Hanks had mild symptoms of COVID-19 and have been recovering. Now that they're back in the U.S., Hanks said they will continue to shelter in place and distance themselves. Quote, many thanks to everyone in Australia who looked after us, end quote, Hanks tweeted Saturday. Quote, their care and guidance made possible our return to the USA, end quote. This is according to CNN and Tom Hanks. That's 10 things you need to know today for Sunday, March 29th, 2020. Thank you for listening. This has been What Makes You Smarter. If you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag, What Makes You Famous. That's it for me. It's Keys Dan, RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.
If you like what you hear, I encourage you to follow What Makes You Smarter on social media. Find it on Facebook at What Makes You Smarter, Instagram at What Makes You Smarter, Twitter at Smarter What, and YouTube. Username Keys Dan. Leave What Makes You Smarter podcast a review and subscribe. Listen to What Makes You Smarter podcast on Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, and Podcast Addict. My personal favorite, learn with me on my podcast, What Makes You Smarter. And if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to check out my other podcast, What Makes You Famous. Find it everywhere using the hashtag, What Makes You Famous. Call 501-470-6386 and leave a message to set up a time for What Makes You Famous. Support What Makes You Smarter podcast using the PayPal, paypal.me/Keys Dan. Email info@radiowhat.com. What Makes You Smarter is a production of Keys Dan Enterprises Incorporated at keysdan.com. Thank you for listening.